This presentation provides an introduction to the Irish Survey of Student Engagement, or ISSE. The Irish Survey of Student Engagement had its first full implementation in 2014. 30 institutions took part and almost 20,000 students participated in the survey. The survey is based on international best practice and is open to first-year undergraduates, final-year undergraduates and postgraduate students on taught programs. Why does ISSE exist? It exists to create an additional valuable source of information on students' experience of higher education. Development of a national student survey was a recommendation of the National Strategy for Higher Education to 2030. But critically, the survey exists to close the feedback loop and to add value at institutional level. Institutions, staff and students need to understand and appreciate the value of ISSE if the project is to be regarded as successful. The project was implemented following a partnership approach. It is funded by the HEA and co-sponsored by institutions' representative bodies, IOTI and IUA, and the Union of Students in Ireland. A series of project working groups undertook all activities leading to development and implementation of the survey, and those working groups were overseen by a project plenary advisory group. That group membership is representative of participating institutions, and the group oversees the strategic management of the project. The collaborative nature of the national partnership has been critical to the success of the project to date. The Survey Design Working Group undertook research into effective practice internationally and decided that a survey based on student engagement was the most appropriate way to achieve the project objectives. Student engagement explores how students interact with their learning environments and addresses a broader range of activities than formal academic provisions such as lectures, workshops or tutorials. Development of the ISSE has benefited from significant research undertaken and experience gained with the National Survey of Student Engagement in the US, which has been running since 2000, and the Australasian Survey of Student Engagement, which has been in place in Australia and New Zealand since 2007. Data arising from the survey can be structured in a series of different ways. One of the useful ways to structure the data is to consider the indices. There are indices relating to student engagement and to student outcomes. So individual questions that contribute to a particular index may be grouped together in order to calculate an index score. The index score is not a percentage, but acts as a useful signpost to prioritize areas for further exploration. From a practical point of view, the survey runs for a 3-week period locally within a national 2-month window. So in other words, each institution selects the most appropriate 3 weeks to open the survey to their students. All institutions open the survey at some point during February and March, so there is a national consistency to data collection. The survey is open to first-year undergraduates, final-year undergraduates and postgraduate students undertaking taught programs. The survey is undertaken on behalf of institutions by a third-party company, and students have a guarantee of confidentiality. The third-party company returns 3 data files to each institution when all national fieldwork has been completed. These files are an index file, which contains percentage responses to each of the questions, grouped together by each of the indices. So for example, there is a single page in Excel format which provides percentage responses to all of the questions that contribute to, for example, active learning, or student-staff interactions, or whatever area or whatever index may be of particular interest. There is a detailed report file which we'll examine later. This is very comprehensive and contains all of the main information required for initial analysis and interpretation of the data. There is also a cleaned raw data file provided. It is a relatively raw data file because this allows individual institutions to undertake whatever analysis they may wish to at a local level. However, the data has been cleaned before it is returned to institutions. So, for example, student IDs have been replaced so that individual students cannot be identified at institutional level, related to the student guarantee of confidentiality, and the free text responses in the data have also been cleaned to remove any individual names that may have been included in the responses. Let us take a very quick overview of the data from the 2014 Irish Survey of Student Engagement. Almost 20,000 students took part, representing 15.6% of the target group. Full demographic breakdown for these figures is available in the national report. Included in the breakdown is the data relating to field of study. You may recall that field of study is based on ISSE one-digit coding. So in simple terms, the broad field of study that would approximately equate to broad faculty level, although this is not the case in individual institutions. From the data, I have the numbers of students that have responded nationally, undertaking programs from each of these broad fields of study. So at national level, there is a strong and valid data set available which would allow individual institutions to compare their own discipline level data against the national context. There are also free text questions within the survey. One question asks what are the best aspects of what your institution does to engage students, and there are full free text responses included in the data returned to institutions. There is a second free text question that asks what could be done to improve how your institution engages with students, and again the free text responses are included in the data. Don't forget that these free text responses have been cleaned to remove any names that may have been included in the survey originally, and this cleaning took place before the data was returned to institutions. There are a whole series of questions within the survey, and these present significant opportunities to explore areas that may already be of particular priority at a local level. For example, there are notable differences between the relationships reported by students with other students, with teaching staff, or with administrative staff. Only staff and students at the local level are fully informed enough to make the judgment as to whether these present issues for further exploration or not. Index scores are calculated scores that act as signposts to help us to navigate the data. They are not percentages, and it is important that everyone remembers that. If I look at academic challenge scores, I see that academic challenge for first years, for final years, and for taught postgraduates increases. This may be as you would expect. If I look at active learning, it would appear that final year undergraduate students are those who report greatest active learning, or technically those who report the highest index score for active learning. If we look at student-staff interactions, then these scores are significantly lower. There is no relationship to be drawn between the scores for student-staff interactions and the scores for other indices. So for example, the fact that first year academic challenge index is 41.0 and the first year student and staff interaction index is 19.0 is not a valid comparison to make. However, within a given index, we can explore the different experiences reported by different groups of students. So if we look at student-staff interactions, the index score for first year is 19.0 for this sample institution. For final year, it's 25.6, and for taught postgraduates, it's 18.7. So it is clear from this data that final year undergraduates are the students who are reporting greatest engagement with academic staff. It is also the case that for ISSE nationally, student-staff interaction for first year in particular is an area that would appear to merit considerable further exploration and investigation. There are a considerable number of other areas that may well be explored. Some advice at this point. ISSE produces a dataset. It is a rich and comprehensive dataset, but it is a set of data. Do not allow the numbers to speak for themselves. If you want to build understanding, if we collectively want to build understanding of the potential of ISSE, we collectively need to ensure that staff and others understand how to use the data. We need to remember that student engagement varies more within institutions than between institutions. This has been proven to be the case in the US with the engagement survey that's been running since 2000, and in Australia and New Zealand, and indeed, so far, it would appear to be the case with the Irish survey of student engagement. At institution level, the index scores are very, very similar across all institutions. However, the experience of students in different year groups or following different disciplines varies considerably within individual institutions, and it is at that level the greatest potential is likely to be found. Examine the data relating to ISSE from multiple perspectives. ISSE is one source only of information that institutions have about the student experience. Explore how ISSE compares to other information sources. If there are particular areas that appear to be of priority in a positive or in a developmental way, then these may merit further exploration, and these may well merit further discussion with students. The Irish Survey Student Engagement is deliberately designed and based on similar surveys internationally. It is not intended to be used in rankings or league tables or any such superficial and potentially misleading uses of the data. The survey is designed to produce a national context to enable impact at a local level.